My pleasure to introduce Pat Becker, who is going to introduce our first speaker. Pat is, you all know Pat, but just in case you don't, Pat is a member of our board of directors. She's also deeply entrenched in voter outreach and has just been a wonderful connector for us, connecting us to groups throughout Marin County. And she's also working with the Student Elections Ambassador Program. So take it away, Pat.
Thank you, Anne. I want to introduce you all to Manuel. His name is Manny. And he's going to give us a brief overview of participatory budgeting, which is an exciting process happening in Marin coming this year. So a little bit about Manny. He grew up in the Bajaro Valley area of Santa Cruz County and moved to the North Bay in 2010. And as we have all done, immediately fell in love with the area. And he now calls the North Bay his home. And he takes advantage of it by, you can usually find him trail running in one of the local parks or bike riding locally. So Manny joined the County of Marin's Office of Equity as an Administrative Services Associate in March of 2022. He has a diverse background in various industries, both in the private and public sectors, including healthcare, communications, finance, and government. That sounds like my bio, Manny. Prior to joining the County of Marin, Manny worked in numerous social assistance programs for the County of Sonoma Human Services, assisting people from all walks of life and age groups. Manny looks forward to working with the Office of Equity team, as we all do, to create a more equitable Marin County. Thank you for being here, Manny. Take it away.
Hi, good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here and joining you today. So I will be talking about participatory budgeting. I have a presentation that I would like to share with everybody. Let me get that started.
I can't.
Okay.
Now, what I would like.
Okay. Let me know when you can see the presentation and I can get started. Okay, it's up. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so participatory budgeting. What participatory budgeting is, it's complicated and difficult to say sometimes, but what it is it's a democratic process where community members, individuals in the community, get to decide how to spend a portion of the public budget. The Board of Supervisors approved $2.5 million for the community to decide how those funds should be used to advance equity in Marin County. The participatory budgeting is the next step in democracy, where community members have a direct say in how a portion of the public budget is spent. It's been used in many parts of the country. It actually started in 1989 in Puerto Alegre, Brazil, and it's been used in all parts of the world. Here in the United States, New York, Chicago, the Midwest is been using participatory budgeting now for about 10, 11 years. Locally, the city of Vallejo, city of Oakland, also have had participatory budgeting. As a matter of fact, the city of Vallejo is now in its 7th cycle. So the participatory budgeting process, what it does is currently we started the process earlier this year. The $2.5 million, that is going to be voted on by individuals in the community. The Board of Supervisors allocated those funds to address racial disparities within Marin County. So we used what's called the Healthy Places Index to identify areas in Marin County that unfortunately are not as doing as well as other parts of Marin County. Overall, Marin County is doing great. On the Healthy Places Index, the majority of Marin County is in the mid-80s, but there are a few locations where it's still 70 or under, and those communities that were identified were Marin City, the Canal area in San Rafael, parts of West Marin, parts of the city of San Rafael, as well as parts of the city of Novato. And through the Healthy Places Index, when you go to the website, you can dial it in down to census tract. And that is how we were able to spot areas in the city of San Rafael and the city of Novato. So the participatory budgeting cycle started last year. It started in July. The first phase, which is still ongoing, it's called the ideas collection phase. So the next phase, which we started a few months ago, is the application to submit proposals. So it's a two-stage process for the proposals. The first stage is the stage one application. It's very straightforward. Essentially what it asks is, what is your idea of how to advance race equity in Marin County? Where in Marin County is this going to serve? Who are the populations that will use the services? Or what infrastructure are you wanting to begin? That stage one application, the deadline is May 10th. The stage two, where it asks a little bit more information, where you submit your budget, where it goes a little bit more in depth into who your partners are, that stage two application is going to be closing at the end of the month. Now, those are not hard dates. If we feel that people are reaching out, that they're still needing a little bit more time to submit applications, we will extend those deadlines. So the cycle itself is the first cycle is collecting ideas. The second cycle is those ideas getting converted into proposals. The third cycle, which will start in September, is where community members vote on the proposals that were vetted by the Office of Equity as well as the Participatory Budgeting Committee. We do have about 15 individuals from Marin County, the community at large, not from within government, but within the community at large, who applied to become part of the Participatory Budgeting Committee to review these proposals that get submitted, and they represent all parts of the county, as well as private individuals, individuals that work for nonprofits, and individuals that work for city governments as well as county government. The fourth phase is when we're going to be funding the proposals. So we anticipate that that'll happen at the end of the year in December. So the projects themselves, the winning projects, will need to be fully funded and fully sustained after the 2-year funding ends. So the funding will be awarded over a 2-year period. And then in January of 2024, after the winning applicants get their funding, that's when the implementation process will begin for their project proposals. So the question that we've gone out and asked at various locations in person, through social media, is asking community members of Marin County, what would you do with $2.5 million to advance racial equity in Marin County? And we created internally a tool where we were able to capture some of those ideas. So this is an online tool that will be shared in chat, the link to see some of the submitted ideas. We've received 100 of ideas so far. And essentially what it's asking for is, what's your idea? What category does it serve? So for example, does it advance diversity, equity, and inclusion? Is this geared towards young children and teenagers? Is this geared towards infrastructure improvement? So for example, we've received some ideas where things like better roads, better lighting in certain locations, especially after dark. Those were some of the requests that we received. So through social media, we've also done a lot of posting on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Our PIO team has been supporting us with these social media posts. We've gone out into community. We went to the Lagunitas Community Fair. We went to the Canal to their community fair. We were in Marin City for the MLK event. doing education on participatory budgeting, as well as collecting ideas from community members. And this is a picture of Jamila, who is the Office of Equity Director. Unfortunately, she couldn't join us today. And this is the event at Marin City for Martin Luther King Day. It was very well attended. It was one of the more fun, it was a really fun event to attend. So some of the examples of ideas that we've received have to do with economic development, job placement and training, expanding services to marginalized communities, partnerships with cities and nonprofit organizations, support for cultural arts programs, improvements to parks and playgrounds, mental health. Mental health is one of the top 3 priorities for the county. Financial literacy for youth, mentorship programs for youth, as well as people of color. We've received lots of feedback around assistance for affordable housing, community gardens. That's an idea that a lot of individuals in Marin County are passionate about. DEI trainings, and we've also received some requests for the utilization of these funds for fire safety educational workshops. My apologies, my computer video was off. Okay, so now we are in the second stage, where is the ideas that we received, converting those ideas into proposals to get voted on. So the deadline as of now for the applications to be received is May 31st. It is a 2-step process, as I mentioned before. On our website, pb.marincounty.org, there are resources to assist either individuals or organizations with the application process. We have a rule book that explains the process. Some of the more frequently asked questions are answered there. We offer resources on how to connect individuals who don't have a 501c3 or a 501c6 to partner with. Marin Link is the fiscal sponsor for the participatory budgeting process, as well as templates for creating a budget and a timeline for the proposal application. So the funding grants will be awarded ranging from $10,000 to $250,000, depending on the scope of the project proposal. And these funds will be allocated over 2 years. So in order to qualify as a project that could be funded so for example, if the funding through the PB process doesn't cover 100% of the financing that's needed, the grant application is going to need to let us know how that gap in funding is going to be addressed, whether it's going to be through a partnership with an outside organization, if it's going to be through additional third-party financing. If the financing is not clarified, unfortunately, that project would be deemed as not realistic within the scope of the PB process. We do have a team of grant writers who can assist individuals that need help with their application, especially the second stage application that asks for a budget proposal to be submitted, and it goes very in depth regarding the details of what the proposal is going to be. So the applications themselves, the stage 1 applications, we're encouraging people to submit them as soon as possible. It's a rolling application. We are reviewing them as soon as we receive them. So once someone has been accepted that their stage 1 application meets the criteria, then what we do is we send them a link and a code for them to begin applying for their stage 2 application. And that stage 2 application is, as I mentioned before, is May 31st, the deadline. So we've recently hosted, last week we hosted 2 workshops with grant writers, and we're going to be hosting 2 more this week. The dates will be and times will be in a slide afterwards. But essentially in these workshops, we're going over the eligibility to receive the funding, how to connect individuals that are requesting assistance with grant writers, an overview of the 2-stage process application, how to connect with a fiscal sponsor if someone needs a fiscal sponsor, and once again, how to get assistance regarding the budget, the project budget, and the timeline. And also, the last portion of these workshops is dedicated to answering questions from the attendees. So as I mentioned last week, we had 2 workshops, and these were online. They were very well attended, especially the one on Thursday. By then, word had gotten out that we were offering these workshops. So we have 2 workshops this week, one in the evening and one during the day. Wednesday the 3rd, it's going to be in the evening from 6 to 8. On our webpage, the links are on there for these 2 workshops. So someone just simply needs to go to our webpage and click on the workshop link, and that'll begin via Zoom at that time. And then the other workshop that we're offering is the one on Thursday afternoon of this week as well. Okay, so this is once again an overview of the PB process. Currently, we're in the developing proposals process. Once the proposals closes, we're going to take some time to review the proposals, to reach out to the applicants who are going to be moving on to the voting stage, and that cycle should begin in September approximately. Okay, so a lot of the questions that we've been receiving is who can vote, how is that going to be determined? So community voting is going to be both online. We're going to have a tool very similar to the ideas collection tool where people can go and vote. And also we're going to be going out into community to events and partnering with organizations in the community to host voting events on site. So anyone who lives, works, owns a business, attends school in Marin County can vote. Immigration status is not a barrier to being able to vote. And also anyone who's 14 years or older can vote as well. So once the voting process starts, the in-person events, we imagine that they're going to be an expo type event where individuals who have submitted a project will be present there to talk about what their idea is. Online, we will have all the ideas that are up for voting. Due to not wanting to overwhelm the voters, we're imagining that we're going to have somewhere between 20 and 25 proposals to be voted on, and ultimately anywhere from 15 to 20 would receive funding. Okay, so as I mentioned before, participatory budgeting allows people to directly decide how public budget funds are going to get allocated. It's directly empowering people on having a voice and a say in how equity is going to be advanced in their community. Okay, well, that's weird. Sorry about that. So participatory budgeting has been around since 1989, and in the locations where it's been implemented, it's been very successful. It engages community engagement in the process. It deepens democracy. Communities rally around this process. Once they become aware of participatory budgeting, they look forward to future participatory budgeting cycles. And it is the evolution, the next step in democracy locally. Okay, and as I mentioned, the funding for the projects, that's going to happen in the fall, late fall of 2023, and the funding for these projects will be dispersed over a 2-year period, up to a 2-year period, depending on the scope and need of that project. Some proposals will only require funding for short term. Some proposals that have a much broader scope will require funding over a longer period of time, and the maximum funding is going to be 2 years. Okay, so this is an overview of what the PB cycle looks like. So the first phase, which is colored in yellow, is the ideas collection phase. The second phase, which is the phase that we're currently in, is the application phase. So So right now we are evaluating and reviewing stage 1 applications, notifying those that are ready to move on to the stage 2. Those that are not, we're giving them feedback. And also that's where the grant writers come in assistance to help them develop their grant application to make sure that it can be strengthened to move on in the PB cycle. The blue colored portion is the voting phase, which will happen later this summer. And the green phase is the disbursement of funding, which will happen at the end of the year. And then the projects will begin at the beginning of 2024. And right now we're in the second phase, which is the proposal application. And it's been very successful in locations where it's been implemented in the past. And we're hoping that this is the first cycle of many PB cycles to come.